Arsenal, who not talk about done? You think me confident? All me have to do is send for the new gun. Anything test dead. We just fly off those head. Down the mercy.
Kill them.
Look a dill, so the boy get killed. Look a dill, you better sign in the will. Look a dill, a boy get killed. Look a dill, look up in the barrel. Limbaili, we a go put them down, send for the oxa. Take out the tongue. Limbaili, we a go put them down, send for the oxa. Take out the tongue. When it's see me, see the hit man a come. See me, say me just
I can't take it no more. I can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. Imagine 18 hours of blackout and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%. Get your give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. I want you try surviving on the public base. Then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up. You done fed up. He done fed up. She done fed up. We done fed up. The people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup. Look how we will set up. The people fed up. They don't drive no fear in the citizen. They may want the people speak out. Freedom of speech done gone inside the gutter. Knock off when you open your mouth. Discrimination in entertainment. And you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows. One set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up. You done fed up. He done fed up. She done fed up. We done fed up. The people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup. Look how we will set up. The people fed up. Every picture you take and promise you make, everything you do is about clout. Then you come into me for I shake your hand, there's nothing to smile about. Corruption inside every sector, but when it comes to them they send you. Try investigate efficiency, right? Go talk to Baratans too, cause I done fed up. You done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how we will set up. The people fed up.
Basement level vibes with another one, straight up blackness. Aye, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, we have to gather wrong, grab a seat and sit down, pay attention. Education, liberation, we have to stand strong. Benskop upon the radio, lively up the program. Everybody call somebody and let them turn and tune and pon the radio and catch the boom song. We boom it up already, we have to boom it up again. Expose and reveal them. Who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, who tell the truth? Mark Benskop, defend the ghetto youth. Mark Benskop, radio station is the fruit. Mark Benskop, straight up from the root. Mark Benskop, I do it for the love, him not do it for no money. Straight up, him attack, educating everybody. Big up my friends and big up my family. Turn on the radio, catch the vibes, it's integrity. Straight up, Benskop stands for unity. One people, one nation, one destiny. Free up the truth in the air, even the blind can see. The deaf can hear, the dumb can talk, the cripple can walk. Boom. Who tell the truth? Mark Ben Scott. Defend the ghetto youth. Mark Ben Scott. Radio station is the fruit. Mark Ben Scott. Straight up from the root. Mark Ben Scott. Who tell the truth? Mark Ben Scott. Defend the ghetto youth. Mark Ben Scott. Radio station is the fruit. Mark Ben Scott. Straight up from the root. Mark Ben Scott.
A blackout, and you're telling people progress. Cost of living gone up 100%, yet you give public servant less. Mr. President, listen to the people. Search your soul and you will confess. And while you try surviving on the public base, then you're gonna know but stress. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done fed up, we done fed up, the people fed up. You're hiding corruption inside the cup, look how evil set up. The people fed up. They don't drive no fear in the citizen. They may want the people speak out. Freedom of speech done gone inside the gutter. Knock off when you open your mouth. Discrimination in entertainment. And you're talking about one Guyana. When the Ministry of Culture keep the big shows. One set of girls and banner. Cause I done fed up, you done fed up, he done fed up, she done.
Everybody's fed up. Every single one, every single Guyanese is fed up. The ones who are pretending that they aren't fed up, it's just that. They're just pretending. They're hypocrites. That's what they are, hypocrites. And so because maybe, not skin color, because they get some black tar babies in Guyana. And, you know, sometimes I smile. The black, the blackest set of individuals in Guyana are the first set to call people black man, right? The black. Turn to your neighbor and say the tar, baby, the black. Have you ever been called a black man? A black man, right? By the blackest of individuals? Black, and holla, black man. So do they really know the meaning of black man? Black man? You can't be a that skin color and call somebody else black man. But anyways, good night to all black man, right? Guyana, I don't know. But they know that this government, this so-called government, is a Katahar government. They know that this so-called government is a bunch of Korhis, a bunch of Chamars, a bunch of Tirikabur, Nanika Chodor, are running the country. Those individuals don't know how to run a country. Everything is about hustle, and hustle. That's all it's about for them. Hustle, thief. If they go into your, what they do, they go into, let me show you guys. They go into your wallet and they thief from you. They don't care if they thief, they take away. They're worse than the choking robbers. You know, they like to say that they got some guys at Stabrook Market that pickpocket. These vagabonds in government are the biggest thieves. They thief your house, they thief your land, they thief your Katahar, they thief your mangoes, they thief every single thing. So as you walk, so as you get it, so they thief it from you. And they steal it, they steal your oil money, they steal your gold, they steal every single thing. They steal young people's future. They try to steal your dignity. So Guyana is a political choke and rap country. They don't care. Don't be fooled, guys. There's no law and order in Guyana, none whatsoever. It's disguised. They pretend as though there is law and order. But then I get law and order. Turn to your neighbor and say, then I get that. Then I get that. Them not get that. It means when you say then I get that, and you got to say it fast enough. Then I get that. Then I get manners. Then I get professionalism. Then I believe in democracy. And they don't believe in transparency. They just don't. So do not be fooled, guys. Turn to your neighbors and say, do not be fooled by these vagabonds in office. Guyana is actually a lawless country, run by a pack of lawless people, and are being joked by lawless individuals who were with them not so long ago, who claim that they give them money, use their guns and protect them. Hold on a second, let me run away for a second. I want to hear about those things. I want to hear about the guns. I want to hear about the rigging of the 2020 elections. I want to hear about those things. But we're not hearing about those things. We're hearing about little land and who get land and who get 150 land, but we not hear about who get 83,000 acres land. We not hear about who get all them land up Millie's hideout, up the Linden Suicide. Some of them might be watching right now, might suck their teeth. Now, Benchop, you rest yourself. This is against the PPP. Yeah, really? It's against the PPP, yes. It's against the PPP, yes. But you can't rush for an exchange from one vagabond to another vagabond. It cannot work. Turn to your neighbor. And some of y'all, just a few of y'all might be vexed out there, but I am consistent in this thing here. If you want a country to get better, if you want a country to be healed, then proper people, proper, fit and proper, turn to your neighbor. I feel like preaching tonight. You can call me Apostle Mark. You can call me Pastor Mark. You can call me Reverend. You can call me Bishop. Whatever you call me, turn to your neighbor and say, Benchop speaking the truth. Benchop speaking the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the, they got some pastors, and this is not to knock pastors. They got some good ones. Good pastors, good apostles. And we have some right here on 107.1 FM. Every morning, Pastor Greenwich and Apostle Dr. Greenwich as well, Aubrey Greenwich, every day. And so, and thank you to them. So I just feel like preaching tonight. How many of you want me to preach about the politics of Guyana? How many of you want me to preach about how the PPP is destroying Guyana? They have destroyed Guyana for 20-something years, Evelyn. They have destroyed Guyana for 20-something years, Wayne Caesar. They're going on 30 years of destroying Guyana. They continue to destroy Guyana. Them and their friends, they think that they own Guyana. They take away your land. They take away your house. They take away your education. They take away your dignity. And all these things they try to do. Ooh, but Guyana is still there. Turn to your neighbor and say, you got to be wiser. You got to be smarter. You can't get crooks trying to outsmart you. Ooh, anyways, our operator just told me that Sharma Solomon, member of Parliament Sharma Solomon, is with us. And I just felt like preaching and preaching. But we got to give the MP, the Honorable MP, Sharma Solomon, we've got to give the Honorable MP the opportunity to come and talk to you guys about what is happening at Lands and Surveys. You haven't been hearing much about them, but there's no board, there's nothing. Absolutely nothing. And so Irfan Ali and these guys have a free-for-all reign. They can walk into your community. They can thief your land. They can do all sorts of things to your land and take it away and give it to their friends, give it to their cronies, give it to their concubines, give it to all sorts of people they're taking it and giving it to, but none for you. Nothing for you, the ordinary people. Absolutely nothing for you. And so I want to bring a man who has been standing up and fighting for your rights, trials and tribulations, and he has been through it all. He's been chairman of Region 10, a mayor of Linden, and of course, a loving citizen of the country. He is now one of your 12 MPs, representing your interests. He's getting bold every single day. Based on maturity, when I knew him, he hardly had any beard. He had no gray hair. Absolutely. But there was something about that young man I can say young man because I'm an old man now. Something about that young man that I admired. And I saw his strength and I saw his bravery during the course of the um, Linden protests when Lindeners were standing up and fighting for their rights. And, I joined them. As you guys know, I'm a Lindener. This is not about me. But that guy that is standing there is Hicken. He wanted to arrest us that night. And we dare him. He was commander. He's now sitting there as the commissioner of police. And I looked him straight in the eyes and I said, wow, let's go. Put your handcuffs on. And while we were standing up and fighting for people's rights and risking our lives, lots of people have risked their lives, standing up against an oppressive government. And some of them were quiet then. Some of them were bankrolling the PPP. Some of them were giving their guns and security for the PPP. Some of them were giving their bulletproof vehicles. And then they didn't know that people were being persecuted then. They didn't know that people were being killed then. They didn't know that people were being slaughtered then. Oh no, those things never existed then. But that's the guy, Commander Hicken. He's now Commissioner of Police. And speaking of Commissioner of Police, this popped up. This is a former Commissioner of Police, Laurie Lewis. Just before he died, he visited my office in Georgetown. Oh, yeah, that's him, Larry Lewis. Visited my office and apologized for all the things that he did to me. All the things, all of the arrests, all of the fabricated charges, and all manner of things. Yes, you see how this life is? You see how this life is? That's former Commissioner of Police Larry Lewis walked straight into my office and apologized. On his deathbed, he said, and I visited him. On his deathbed, he said that there were businessmen connected to the PPP who went to him and offered him to get rid of me. They said, boss, you want us to get rid of Ben Sharp? He said, no. And I'm just saying this to say that all of this corruption and this brutality and this wickedness, it's been going on for a while. And lots of people condone it. That is why we are where we are now. And as you witness the revelation of what's happening with the police force and people accusing them now, suddenly the people who embraced them and loved them and gave them money and all sorts of things, because things aren't working in their favor right now, we are hearing and we're seeing what we're seeing. But we all knew what was happening. Nothing has changed. The only thing that is happening now is that friends have fallen out. And so they are going to reveal and they're going to snitch at each other. But let them snitch. Tonight we have Sharma Solomon, a man who could possibly one day be the president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana. Now, we're not here to talk about that, but something just flowed through my mind there on that. Mr. Solomon, good night, Honorable MP, and welcome to Straight Up. How are you, sir?
Hi, good night, Mark, and good night to your audience, and thanks for having me on the program. I am good by God's grace. How are yourself?
Not too bad. Can't complain. Now, let me ask you this, Mr. Solomon. What's the mood like of the people in Region 10, in Linden? How are they feeling? What's the situation with cost of living as you go around the markets and so forth and so on? Talk to us.
There is no discrimination, Mark, in the hardship that is affecting every Guyanese, including Lindeners. That 58% of poverty, I am quite certain many Lindeners, many pensioners, single mothers in this community are part of that. That 38% in abject poverty that lives on $650 a day. Lindeners are certainly captured in that. So as it relates to cost of living, Linden is not spared like all over Guyana and so many Guyanese in this very rich economy, in this most prosperous nation. And these are not my numbers, both sets, whether it is the suffering of the people or the prosperity of this nation. They're our international partners who have said that. So just like every other Guyanese who are suffering the issue of cost of living, we owe that certainly to the mismanagement of what we see is taking place. And that mismanagement goes to whether it is our investment in initiatives, whether it's the gas to energy, or whether it's mismanagement of our own resources in giving those resources to family, friends, and favorites. And we see the issue with this matter of the farm, but beneath that is the real distribution of lands and the grabbing of lands. So Linden is not spared. We know Linden, outside of that cost of living issue, had matters of trying to have persons put together farms, and those farms were bulldozed in Amelia's ward. So we understand the hardship too. It's not only because of the mismanagement, but a lot of it to vindictive behavior by this government towards people who have suffered having their homes and their farms bulldozed. So those contributing factors, Mark, Linden is not spared from none of that. But nevertheless, as we have and will continue to be resilient, I know that the people in this community 14 years ago demonstrated just how resilient we can be. And I'm certain that attitude have never left this community, Mark.
I know you guys, Apnu, you're traveling throughout the country, you're traveling throughout region 10, and so forth and so on, and giving and offering real representation. Do you think that they, for the most part, they now understand that they were being fooled mainly by the PPP? That who do not care, the PPP guys do not care for them in Region 10? Do you think they've
You
seen
know,
the light?
it's hard for persons not to appreciate just how difficult life is for Guyanese. I remember equating that to two very principal positions that the PPP have played on the Guyanese society and the Guyanese public, which would be the looking for it culture, where they've placed Guyanese in such a desperate state of need and want that people are looking desperately for it. And because they know that, they've then placed before Guyanese a eat a food culture of where you give that it a definition. Maybe many times you put that SH in front of the it, and that is the food that they're feeding the Guyanese people after having them in that looking for food culture. But you know, the thing is, Mark, outside of that, I think people are not unaware of those two cultures and where they find themselves. You know, the fact that you're speaking cost of living, you see contractors, for example, who were caught up in that excitement for those small contracts are now complaining. You see persons who were misled to get into certain businesses. We see 200 truckers who a couple months ago protested because those contracts and those laterite and quarry pits have now been sold to Chinese. So the issue of the looking for it and the eat of food, many times for those who thought that the PPP would have given them the sort of redemption and given them the sort of life and living, are certainly not only now regretting it, but are certainly suffering from it, Mark.
They are suffering from it. The people in Ituni are complaining. The people in Kokwani feel as though they have been promised so much by the PPP and some newcomers, but they're just not seeing anything at all. It's just back to square one, and it's even gotten worse. And so this time around, they've got to open their eyes and understand that your vote matters. And you know, people shouldn't walk into your communities and just swar you, so to speak, into voting. And then when you vote, they disappear. And the only time you see them back is just around the elections time again. I know that we are seeing signs, Mr. Solomon, that they are gearing up. Hopefully, they are gearing up for local government elections. What's your take on that? Are you optimistic that there will be local government elections, sir?
What I can say is that we have, and I will continue to say this to people, to be prepared for any eventuality. We are dealing with a People's Progressive Party that is one that doesn't respect the procedures and protocols. 3 years ago, June 12th, I remember being elected mayor of this town of Linden, and local government elections are constitutional 3 years every time. So let us not forget this is the government who avoided local government elections for over 2 decades. This is the government and a party that would have infiltrated councils to the point of making most of them IMCs back in the days. This is a government that have demonstrated, even with the local authority system in place right now, there is no local government commission, which is constitutional that we must have a commission in place. We have local government authorities in the town councils and the NDCs that are being starved of resources, one, but more than anything else, having their authority undermined by town clerks and overseers that are there on behalf of the government and the Minister of Local Government. So the issue of local government is one where we know that the People's Progressive Party doesn't have respect for local democracy, and in itself doesn't have respect for democracy, because local democracy represents good governance. It represents accountability, transparency in these communities. And more than anything else, it represents the voice of the people, persons who went to the polls and exercise who they would like to see manage the affairs of their communities, of their constituencies, are denied that when you see the application of governance by the People's Progressive Party. So I am prepared for local government 2026. However, I'm not too optimistic that the People's Progressive Party, with their track record, will have a local government elections in 2026.
Having said that, I'm reading some of the comments, and the folks are concerned, rightly so, about GCOM, not whether the corrupt PPP, the PPP that doesn't believe in democracy or elections, whether they are prepared for elections. Are you guys in the APNU comfortable with going into another elections, this time another local government elections, knowing what played out with the previous local government elections where results weren't even given? And you guys at least struggled in Bartica. You guys struggled, meaning APNU, struggled in Madja, where there was a tie, and in Bartica, where there was another tie. And because of breaking that tie, the PPP took control of Bartica, and they're not doing anything for the people of Bartica, even though they took control with that breaking of the tie. In Madja, they did the same, and they're not doing anything for the people of Madja. Having said that, the APNU or PNC did not contest over 200 districts. And even with that, the results coming out from GCOM are still to be properly declared. With all of that said, are you guys prepared, APNU? Are you guys once again prepared, seriously prepared to contest all of the district, all of the region? And secondly, how comfortable are you guys with GCOM? And if you're not comfortable with GCOM, then what is being done, sir?
Well, I like the question because the level of preparation is where you first said you saw the amount of work being done on the ground. That's the first preparation. The party, the APNU, our parliamentarians, I am certain the public is well aware of the activities of each and every one of the members of parliament for the APNU in terms of our portfolios and in terms of our activities in the public. It is indeed something we have to amplify more, even as aggressive as it is, because of the amount of members of parliament that we have. Coming from the 2025 elections, I'm certain that the level of rebuilding and regrouping is what we will not only work with those APNU members of parliament, but with our activists and our party members on the ground to ensure that rebuilding effort is one where not only you see the presence, but you see the effectiveness of our grounding of our activities and participation with those communities. I remember when we had our local government elections in Linden, which we did exceptionally well in 2023. In 2018, the APNU had 5,000 votes, 3,000 votes in fact. The total amount of votes in Linden was 5,000. And in 2023, the APNU received 8,000 votes, and the entire election brought out 10,000 residents. In my constituency of Amelia's ward, we had 2,000 persons that voted for the candidate, Sharma Salman. So I am certain that not only our grounding now, but our relationship in those constituencies and those communities and the towns that we would have participated in and did so well. Our program will continue to show that we will maintain our engagement with those communities. On the other communities that you spoke about, Mark, I think nationally, the political dynamic certainly is one that we have to adjust our political relationship to. Those communities that we did not contest, I'm certain this time around we will be contesting those communities as we regroup and rebrand. And in those areas like Madhya and Bartika, you're quite correct. The PPP would have taken control of those communities. However, I can attest to this. While in Madhya, even though the PPP is in control, you saw both the mayor and the deputy mayor resigning because of the transgressions of Pauline Sukai and the PPP ministers and the PPP government. So the level of preparation, we are not only on the ground, not only regrouping, but we are analyzing for where those deficiencies are in terms of government's behavior in those municipalities and NDCs. The point on GCOM, we have never been satisfied, and I don't think the rest of this country should be satisfied. Not only the APNU and political parties have expressed this, including the People's Progressive Party. Let's not forget Barry Jagdeo in 2019, who called for reforms and called for biometrics and called for the voters list to be adjusted. I think we've moved beyond that with the level of stalemate we see with the commissioners and where the GCOM chairman is stalemating the board, the commission from having its work done. And with this new political reality and all that is taking place, certainly GCOM is in for reforms. And what we see should not and must not carry forward with not only local government, but with no elections until we have that sort of matters settled and straightened out at GCOM.
You know, and people are hoping that those matters are seriously settled. And not just with, as we see, the focus, the sudden focus to get rid of those three opposition appointed commissioners. That's not the answer. That's not going to solve the problem. But some people seem to be fixated on that for obvious reasons and not the bigger picture. The bigger picture is an overall reform of the system to get proper people in place. People have been calling for Claudette Singh to go, but that seems to be the past now. Nobody seems to be talking about Claudette Singh and Claudette Singh must go or whatever. But hopefully at some point in time, people will start focusing on the real agenda, unless those people who are focusing on getting rid of those three opposition appointed commissioners have an agenda to basically distract the real opposition and to target individuals other than the real culprits. We're seeing.
That's true. I think it's true, Mark. But I think the chairman of the commission would have contradicted herself in just the request being made by her that her appointment comes from consultation, while she is calling for the removal of the commissioners based on the fact that we have a new political reality and a new political dynamic, which in itself should or would affect her also. So I think what you've seen is not only an attempt to remove unconstitutionally, because those commissioners are there constitutionally, those commissioners, but for the purposes you just highlighted, why is it those commissioners are being targeted and not the entire reforming of the entire commission, which includes the chairman of the commission?
There seems to be a hidden agenda there, but that agenda is pretty obvious by now. The reason why they're targeting those three individuals, and we will soon, very soon and very shortly see more of exposing or exposure of that agenda very soon, very shortly. Now, you speak of democracy and the fact that the PPP doesn't respect democracy. We all know that. They don't believe in democracy. They do not believe in transparency. But I am concerned that months after the last elections, the last general and regional elections, uh, Region 10 is still to get appoint a new um, chairman of the region. How concerned are you that thus far there's nothing, no development in that regards?
I'm very concerned, Mark. You know, having served as a chairman myself, I can say the importance of the position to have not only the chairman as we do have, but a functional council to ensure that the work of the region is pushed forward. You know, you had budget recently without the input from your counselors that is really matters that come from the community. You know, these matters when you have counselors who not only can aggregate the issues from those communities, but can articulate them clearly into a budget with proper representation to allow the priority issues to be addressed on behalf of those people. I think it's a great disservice to this region that we hadn't the opportunity to do that. So a functional council not only would have done that, but with a functional council, you also have committees that would have ensured that in the execution of the continuous work of the council, by now, whether those committees for education, health, infrastructure, and the administration, agriculture, those things are not with oversight at the moment. So there is no accountability and transparency in terms of how we see work being executed. And many times you see it not being done in the best interest of the people who are then left to suffer. So a functional council is indeed a disservice to the community and the people of Region 10, but it is in itself a disservice to those councillors who have been elected by this region, represented by the people in this region to represent them, and have not been able to do so in a functional council. This is solely on the government. I know we, at the election for the councillors and what should have been for the chairman, we hadn't, there's no majority in the region. And the politics aside, we had accepted that. But what we had was an unwilling partner to appreciate, recognizing that there must be a role for the other partners or parties in the absence of a clear majority. And I don't think political maturity allowed for that. And it gave the PPP an opportunity to do just what we are seeing now, which is to railroad the process. I remember speaking to the Minister of Local Government in Parliament who had promised to visit the region in February, and we're in July, and to date, the minister have not visited the community, not only to deal with the RDC, but with several issues within the municipality. So that level of democracy local for Region 10 doesn't only affect the RDC, but the municipality, and in essence, representation totally on behalf of the people of the town of Linden and the region number 10.
46 minutes after 9 o'clock, I'm Mark Benchop. With me is the Honorable Member of Parliament, Sharma Solomon. He's with us tonight. We're still going to stick with Linden for a few minutes more. We thought by now we heard Parajak Dev. The impression he gave months ago was that the bridge was the new bridge. And of course, an idea came about through APNU, the coalition government, because for 20-something years, the PPP never thought of anything good. They never thought of the bridge. And so the idea came about under the APNU AFC government. And so the PPP ran with it. It's no idea of their own. They ran with it. And then that bridge is there. But months ago, we heard Jack Dev at his usual Thursday masquerading, saying that the bridge is about to open. What's the situation with that bridge, sir?
You know, last year, The year we had the consultation for this bridge as mayor of Linden, I remember the Watuka Club raising several concerns. We had a walkabout with the representatives of China Harbor and China Rail, and also to have the stakeholdership to include what we had called a repository committee of experts that can help us when we have these massive projects within the region, within the town, to guide the town council and the municipality on many of the technical aspects of these works. The clerk undermined that. Ejel came at Watuka Club and, in the presence of PPP supporters, and again, Lindeners who are so, they eat the food and we are looking for it, um, took what our concerns were for granted. Now, let me say what those concerns were. And it included the sort of infrastructural works that were going in. It included that repository committee of experts so that we can have additional reviews. It included the environmental and social impact assessments that we'd asked for. It included releasing of the contracts so that we understand the full scope of works to be done by the contractor, not only for the road, but the bridge. Now, here we are today, after the Minister of Public Works and the President, Vice President, as you said, would have made so much noise that this bridge is going to open in April, which we missed. It was going to open in June, July, and I can say this tonight, that bridge is not going to be open anytime shortly. Of recent, the bridge missed or in fact failed a very crucial soil stabilization test. And if you are aware of soil stabilization at the gas to energy project, we paid an additional 200 million US because of poor soil stabilization after being advised not to use that location. So this government, instead of using and building on the coalition concept of the initial location and the technical studies that were done for the bridge, of the Mackenzie-Wismar Bridge, went ahead and they did their own. And now you have at the entry and the access to the bridge, the soil stabilization failed the test. So I'll say this now because we'll further investigate and call the Minister of Public Works out on this, that for them to put the actual foundation on a failed test site is criminal. So at this moment, based on what we are aware, and I can say we are aware with confidence, is that they have absolutely no idea on how to approach moving forward with this very, very critical obstruction that is now going to not only delay the opening of the bridge, but make it uncertain of when the bridge is going to be open now.
Uncertain indeed. That's exactly what the PPP regime is about. And if folks can recall, the Berbice River Bridge, which was built by monies stolen from taxpayers, hundreds of millions of dollars from NIS and other places, and given to Jack Dale's friends and cronies to build the Berbice River Bridge. And that is how they're making money. They're fleecing the nation. And these vagabonds, these corrupt PPP vagabonds, that is what they do. They take hundreds of millions of your tax dollars and they give it to their friends and cronies. So the Berbice River Bridge, Mr. Salvan, you recall, they were advised, Jack Dale and his cronies were advised that that was the wrong spot for that bridge. They built that bridge at the mouth of the Berbice River. Dangerous. Build the bridge further into New Amsterdam, Stanley Tongue area, shorter, stronger, and better. But Jack Dale said no because he wanted a long thing, a long bridge. He wanted that. And as a result of that, they stifled the tongue of New Amsterdam, stifled hundreds of people because of political spite, because of greed, and because of stupidity. And we are seeing that same stupidity as in regards to what is happening with Linden and that bridge from Mackenzie to Wismar. Shame on the PPP regime. Shame on them. How are people feeling about all these broken promises and these scampishness coming from the PPP guys then?
You know, one of the things we said to people in this community, Mark, is that there is absolutely no transformative project that the PPP can show over the past 6 years. They have now said that the Bayrock Community Center that started with the foundation, the stands, and the pitch, it went as far as the track that was installed by the coalition. That is the foundation on which they are now patting themselves on the back of a project that should have finished three governments in, started under the coalition and completed in Ali's second term. That is the only thing to show. Outside of that, Mark, what we have said to people is when you have this sort of retarding of uh, transformational projects, when you now finish 6 years in, you see communities around this country moving to two, four, or five of their transformational projects when you have not even completed one as yet. So whether it's the Linden Soosdijk Highway, and I'm certain those persons who are using that highway will say to you that the duration time between the works to see how it's going to last will not stand the test of time. Quite certainly, you're seeing some defects. And I'm certain within the liabilities and defects period, you will see a lot of the retention being withheld because of the works to be completed that are already falling apart. So, outside of those transformational initiatives, which the bridge is to be one, you now see the quality of the works on those that are to be completed maybe 2 to 3 years in. And you have not even seen in this 2026 budget and even an hint of anything in the 2027 to come because of what the sort of budget consultations that we had of any new transformational project. So Linden is still at a state of not only waiting for those transformational projects, but we are still waiting to see the massive level of investments and employment that are to come into this community based on the transformational state of this country and the growth that we continue to see. One of the things you ask about how Linden feels about this, as I said before, Guyana it finds itself in a situation where a government with so much resources can certainly manipulate so much of the structures of this society that keeps people in a position where they feel helpless and hopeless. But Mark, tomorrow, the 18th, you and I know when people found themselves in a very desperate and hopeless position, and it is where we have to continue to educate, continue to bring to the understanding of people. You were showing a sink with running water. I remember last week it was Gaiwa who said that water is safe to drink. They said that. They said it was safe to drink. And if persons will continue to see these sort of transgressions, these sort of happenings within our society, and not think that they too will have to be called upon like we did 14 years ago, and the public responded, then it doesn't mean you have to wait until it's an existential threat or a life and death for your interests to be motivated to do something. Yesterday we had a conversation about he who feels it knows it. And it was just, I don't have the dossier, it is usually close by, of 400 names of young men who were murdered in the 2000s. And it was at that point we recognized that death could be knocking at anyone's door. And it was until he who feels it knows it, and people recognize it was closer to home than many of us thought, that people started to do something about it. And I'm saying at this moment, we should not wait in this society before we find ourselves at those sort of environment and dangerous levels before we should be doing something about it.
Well said, Sharma Solomon, Member of Parliament. Let me say good night to all of you if you're now joining us. And those were brutal years indeed when some folks were asleep, some of them were condoning, some of them were bankrolling the PPP, some of them were giving guns to the PPP, some of them were bribing the police force, some of them were hogging up the police force. Now suddenly the police force is corrupt. All manner of things you're hearing. But guys, while that may be true, for the most part, do not be distracted. Do not be distracted. Uh, we got a couple more questions for you, but our operator may want to see if Mr. Irfan Ali may want to respond to anything that you have said. Thus far, we believe in transparency, and so we don't want anybody to be left out. Let's see, Mr. Ali, do you have anything to say at all? All right, so it seems as though his only interest right now is about the ranch and about what's happening at that ranch, 150 acres, questionable circumstances. A lot of people are of the view that taxpayers' monies, hundreds of millions of taxpayers' monies, been pumped into that ranch, which is highly controversial. Nothing new; it's been in existence for a while now. But what is your take, even on the explanation given by Irfan Ali, sir?
Yeah, Mark, this is a very, very disturbing matter. I believe, however, as disturbing as it is very important, however, for Guyanese to pay attention to really what the issue or issues are in terms of how it affects each and every one of us. The sensational and the excitement of this breaking news, as we would want to call it, is good to see as a part of the interests of where Guyanese now are focusing. But this is not a matter that we are to forget of who we are dealing with. We are dealing with a gentleman who is with 19 fraud charges against his name for similar situation of misappropriating land, undervaluing land, and gifting lands to family, friends, and favorites. Let us not forget Pradoville too. Let us not forget that the president got lands under Barajak Dio and could not account for any other lands under the coalition. And with the absence of a Lands and Survey Commission board, is now with 150 acres of land. And we cannot say what amount more wherever else those lands have been, and to whomever else lands have been given. So I don't think that, as much as we see the excitement about a farm, and legitimately we have every right to ask questions about the development of such a farm, as public officials, we all should be under whatever scrutiny comes our way. I believe the bigger issue becomes the appropriating of lands for family, friends, and favorites, and even foreigners, and how that affects national output in terms of food production. How, in the appropriating of those lands, we see things like social engineering and gerrymandering in terms of moving people around this country, and how we see the issue of the dispossessing of the less privileged when it comes to them acquiring land in the same manner that we see the elites, such as the president, and they call it squatting. They can't provide paperwork for these lands, so we will bulldoze them. But we had the president for 15 minutes claiming to have more than 20 acres land, cannot show where the mechanisms were in place for him to be given those lands, especially in the absence of a board that is, by an act of the Lands and Survey Commission, shall be in place and is not in place for over 6 years. And with no paperwork, make the claim that he is in possession of not 150, but did not say it is less than 20, and we are not bulldozing the commander in squatting. So it is most unfortunate when we talk about the farm, but I think it's important when we also look at how lands are being grabbed. I want to think, people might think distributed and how it was given. But Mark, this is beyond a complaint. Tomorrow, as we commemorate the 18th of July, one of the 4 things signed on to on the 21st of August agreement was the establishment of land selection committee in the region. And 14 years ago, it is because we knew the government of the day and exactly what they were doing in this region in particular when it came to the distribution of lands and for what purpose that they were giving it for, by excluding the region from any understanding of how those lands were being distributed. Now today, not only that 150 that you see, but we can say to you, family, friends, and favorites of this government, of this president in particular, have massive amount of lands along the Berbice River, along the Linden Soosdijk Highway, and in the intermediate savanna within the Aichuni belt and heading behind the Maikoni Creek. As all of these areas are strategically positioned Region 10, as we all know, Region 10 is the only region that connects to 6 other regions in this country, including Region 3, of where we see lands are also being pushed for. So when we see all of these massive infrastructure, we must ask ourselves, it's not only that the possession of land is something that will dispossess you in your quest for lands, but with the installment of infrastructure to have these mega farms and these plantations to be serviced, it comes at a disadvantage to you, the people. So whether it's roads that are going in for these lands, we know massive roads are going in for lands in the Ibini, in the upper Berbice River area. We know that massive amount of infrastructure work is being done for soya plantation that are people that is with persons closely related to the president. So those type of activities are not one where we are just making speculation, but one where it is actually affecting other farmers, because now food production will certainly go up when local farmers cannot compete when they have limited access to farm to market road. And I'll give you an example, Mark. A few days ago, Comrade Nima Flew Best interviewed about 6 farmers who suffer tremendously getting into the Muckaback Dam to bring produce to farm to market, which takes them an additional cost when they bring those produce out, and not to the volume because of the state of the road. And those farmers now have to go and compete on the open market with farmers such as the president, if you call him that still. So I think not only, as I said earlier, he who feels it knows it, people come to that understanding that you'll see what the president and the family, friends, and favorite have done to this country will affect each and every one of us in some way or the other.
Well said. Member of Parliament Sharma Solomon mentioned earlier there's no board at the Guyana Lands and Surveys Commission. There's absolutely nothing there. And that commission was actually established in 2001. And the purpose of it is basically to conduct surveys, prepares maps, maintains national survey control overseas. They also manage the sale and lease, valuation, and record of public lands. That is what they do. And without a board, there's no transparency there. The man who makes the final decision is Irfan Ali.
Absolute executive of the decision of who gets what lands, including himself, family, friends, and favorite, to deny others of lands. And that has been going on for the past 6 years now.
How soon can we hear, because I know you've been vigorously pursuing this issue here, that lands and survey, as important as it is, there is no board, but yet the person who has the final say is Irfan Ali. He gets to say who has, access to whichever piece of land. He gets to give it to his friends, his family, his favorites, and all manner of things. When can we see some action with regards to a proper audit of this agency, sir?
Well, certainly, Mark, the questions will be asked in Parliament, I can assure you, within the week, not only for lands and survey, because this have now opened up a wider conversation on those statutory state agencies, whether it's EPA, whether it is forestry, GGMC, all of those agencies either without boards, defunct boards, or are not working in the best interests of this nation based on their mandate. So the questions will be asked not only of lands and survey and its absence of a board, but also amendments to have these institutions work and agencies work even more effective and efficiently will certainly be pursued. Not only that, too, we will also be looking to have, especially as it relates to lands and survey and central housing and these agencies that are distributing lands and house, to ensure that the opposition that is constituted to have members on these boards must have members on these boards. But you see, what we have, Mark, is a government who understands that these things must be in place and deliberately have made them in such a state that they don't work not only on behalf of the people, but that they are so disorganized that that disorganization works on behalf of this government. You know, we have the coalition had asked for this country to be mapped. A Canadian company was hired to start the mapping, and this government scrapped that soon as they came into power, because with the mapping done, we would have known in this country just by the click of a button what lands are available, for what purpose they're available for, and to ensure that the land utilization was known, whether for housing, minerals, whatever. And also, we would have also known the value of where those lands are located. And that's an actual project that was started under the coalition. So the point is, what we have now is a government who recognize that they have to dismantle all of those institutions. One of the things in the amendment that will be pushed for is just like the natural resources, how we had set up a commission and a committee to have that sort of oversight of lands and survey in terms of the Lands and Survey Commission, and not have, in the absence of a commission and a board, the president with the ultimate and absolute authority to do what he is doing now, which includes giving himself 130 acres additional land.
Shame on Irfan Ali. Shame on him. Shame on Irfan. But you've got to be careful, though. People have to be careful because the perception, the widespread perception, is that there's rampant corruption at the Guyana Lands and Survey. Rampant corruption there, corruption galore. That is the perception, that they're corrupt at Lands and Survey.
Mark, you're not.
Let us hope that there's no fire that break out and.
Good point. Excellent point, Mark. Very good point, because you're making a point that it's not just restricted to lands and survey, and that is what this matter is unfolding. So we started out with a sensational story which legitimately deserves questions and answers. But what we have uncovered and recognized not only now, but long before, from the culture of a man with land fraud under his belt, and that have appropriated lands to family, friends, and favorite below market value. What we're uncovering is not only the defunct of a lands and survey agency that allows for this, what we're recognizing is the deliberate defunct of state agencies, whether it's GRA, it is EPA, in those are in that manipulation. What it does, it allows, just like lands and survey, to have this sort of misappropriating of resources, to have this sort of corrupt environment where you're making the point. It's easy to see a fire consuming the entire operation to cover people in their tracks. So it doesn't stop at lands and survey. It extends to forestry. It extends to GGMC. It extends to the EPA. It extends to GRA. All of these agencies have made the news in the past year in terms of their inability to effectively and efficiently operate on behalf of the Guyanese people.
Mr. Solomon, I know you've had a busy day. We want, and I hope our operator would just allow Mr. Irfan Ali to say good night to you guys. Operator? All right, that's Irfan Ali saying good night to you guys. But here, before we go, tomorrow, as Londoners and the people of Guyana prepare to remember the young men who were slaughtered under the PPP regime, and they were slaughtered while folks were enjoying the goodness and the good life by bankrolling the PPP, giving PPP guns and protecting the PPP and all sort of things. We know who they are. We're big and we got lots of sense. But what are the plans for tomorrow, please, Mr. Solomon?
So, Mark, unfortunately, 14 years ago, the government, instead of listening to its residents, its citizens, and where they eventually did that after 35 days of resistance, in the process would have killed, murdered three young men, Alan Lewis, Shemrai Boy, and Ron Somerset, injured dozens of residents, leaving many with lifelong injuries. Um, on this day, yes, tomorrow, 14 years ago, stood to say to the rest of this country that Article 13 of the Constitution guarantees citizens the right to be involved in any decision and every decision that affects their lives. And I believe the people of Linden, in standing firm for their constitutional rights, demonstrated to Guyanese exactly just how a struggle must be waged against a stubborn government that believes that they don't have to listen to the public. But outside of that, I believe the agreement itself that was signed to bring this protest action to a halt not only saved this community, think about this, Mark, 14 years in, $3.5 billion in subsidies represents almost $50 billion in cash that the government of Ramatar was asking this community to find 14 years in. And based on conservative estimates by economist Ra Lucas, by now it would have been half $500 billion. $500 billion. That's $500 billion based on social, based on economics, and based on just what this community would have had to endure if that very unconscionable decision was allowed to prevail. So 14 years ago, this community, and today you see manufacturing moving in a direction where we have from 9 sawmills to almost 39 sawmills coming into this community, taking advantage of the cheap power and electricity. Whereas you would pay $1 million in power, you're paying $100,000 to $40,000 for power generated in Linden and Region 10 if you own a sawmill. Those are the sort of sacrifices that were made on the 18th of July. However, as I said, not before three men lost their lives and before a government after 35 days was made to sign an agreement to stop that imposition and to listen to its citizens. Tomorrow we will have the commemoration at the Bamia grave site. There is significant works around that Mackenzie Wismer Bridge, as we just spoke about the civil works that is taking place around that bridge that they're now recognizing in itself is not going to hold and going to delay the opening of that bridge. That is going to cause significant traffic buildup. And with the infrastructure works, we had some obstruction of the site. So they will have a reclaim at the site. It's cleared, it's clean, it's prepped. However, the service will be, as we did all those years, at the Bamia Cemetery with the family, and to also ensure that we have the reclaim at that cemetery at the tomb site.
All right, tomorrow, Londoners and Guyana prepare to remember these young men who were slaughtered under the PPP regime. Shame on Jack Deere, shame on Irfan, shame on Sam Hines, shame on Mark Phillips and those guys. Shame on those political vagabonds. And when you talk about political killings, this is a perfect example. 14
Mm.
years later, and there's still no justice for the families of these young men who were slaughtered by agents of the PPP regime. They were slaughtered at a time when individuals were bankrolling and brazenly telling you out there that they bankroll the PPP so that the PPP can persecute people, so the PPP can kill people, so that they can go around slaughtering hundreds of people, so that they can go around and suppress protests, peaceful protests, and all manner of things. And then when they don't bankroll the PPP, they loan the PPP guns and protect the PPP and all.
But
These are
Mark, you're
things
not
that
speaking
are
out
there.
your head, you know. You're not speaking out your head, you know, Mark. I tell you this because I remember on the 19th of July, after the 18th, and businessmen assembled in Georgetown and were concerned. And when the protest prolonged for a week, they're concerned. And that is when Sam Hines made that very reckless statement about people trying to get into the interior, and he had no consideration that three men had lost their lives. Those businessmen were more concerned about their fuel and their trucks getting into the interior. And we know who they were. We know who they are because they still have mining concessions, they still have logging concessions, they still have quarrying concessions. In fact, the same way the commission pointed out, we had snipers on roof when the police deployed. We know we had threats to the lives of organizers of the protest by businessmen because they thought we were obstructing their business. So you're not speaking out of your head, Mark. A lot of businessmen were not too satisfied because they thought that the pressure came on them instead of allowing the government to listen to its citizens, were prepared to put pressure on the residents.
All right, so go out in your numbers tomorrow. We may be able to carry it live here on 107.1 FM. Uh, Go out and remember those young men slaughtered. They were murdered by PPP agents. They were murdered under the PPP, just as Waddle was murdered under the PPP while people were bankrolling the PPP, while they were lending their guns and their soldiers to the PPP, and all these things. And even Courtney Crummy Wing slaughtered under the PPP regime while people were boasting and bragging that they're bankrolling the PPP while they were hugging up and kissing up to senior members of the Guyana Police Force when hundreds of people were being slaughtered and people were being persecuted. They were busy bankrolling the PPP. You know, Mr. Sharma, before we go, there's something that's telling me that at some day, at some point in time, we'll see genuine people, genuine individuals' names lined up alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., President Lyndon Forbes Sampson Burnham, Chetty Jagan, uh, Nelson Mandela, and so forth. Genuine people, real fighters. And hopefully one day we'll see your name right there because you're a genuine fighter. You're real. You're not fake. Anyways, sorry, I just thought I let that. I let that.
Consistency matters. Consistency matters, Mark. And tomorrow is Nelson Mandela, 18th of July, Nelson Mandela Day, Freedom Day.
Honesty matters. Honesty matters. And I hope Guyanese are waking up to understand. Do not be
Mhm.
fooled by any and everybody running out, meh, hollering persecution and hollering, meh. Understand that those very people contributed to the problem that we are faced with here today. You can't hug up with the police force yesterday, kiss up with the police force, give the police force money, probably help to bribe the police to do what they wanted to do, you wanted them to do, and then suddenly now the police force is corrupt. Wayne Caesar is going to be here tomorrow. But before we go, please, sir, your closing remarks, sir.
Mark, I am always encouraged to be on your program. The topics this evening, Guyanese, I'm asking not only for your attention on them, but the time will come, as we did 14 years ago tomorrow, call for your involvement and action on them. It is important for you to appreciate how it is affecting you. It is not just about a farm, it is about the acquisition of resources at your expense and how it affects each and every one of us, one. And the attitude of a government, as we saw 14 years ago, stubbornly and unwilling to listen to its residents, and when that occurred, where people must prepare it in line with Article 13, take the necessary constitutional action.
Thank you so much, Mr. Solomon. Give my regards to the people of Linden as you guys go about tomorrow. Give my regards to the family members of those 3 young men who were slaughtered under the PPP regime. Slaughtered, they were murdered. Lots of people were shot, pellet bullets. They were being persecuted. And even you and other leaders there at that time in Linden, you had special branch officers and you guys, following you guys all over. So the PPP mastermind with these sort of things. And while all of these things were happening, there were people bankrolling the PPP, loaning their guns to the PPP, security for the PPP. Mr. Sharma Solomon, we end on that note. God bless you and continue
Bless
the good
you.
work that you're doing, sir.
Stay blessed, Mark, and good to I'll be on your program. Stay good.
Thank you, sir. Tomorrow, Wayne Caesar is going to be with you guys from 7 to 8. And Wayne will be bankrolling you guys with a bunch of information. He will be bankrolling you guys with a bunch of information. Good information. Absolutely good information. Honest information, because he means well. You guys have to cling to people who mean well for you. Read between the lines. Do not follow people who are basically leading you down a blind road, who do not care about you. Suddenly, you think people care about you? Yeah, I think people care about you. The police force has been corrupt for a while. Some of them aided and abetted the police force, give the police force money, bribe the police force, corrupt the police force. But now they want to tell you about the police force corrupt. Hey, I love you guys. I'll be back on Monday. I promise you guys, I'm not going to fall asleep again. Keep an eye on the Guyana Lands and Surveys. Corrupt agency. While some people pretend as though they're talking about corruption, you try that. Yeah, I'll try that. All of them were one big family. We are family. They're all corrupt and they're me. Anyways, we leave you guys with words coming out from Irfan Ali. A prayer. Irfan is praying for the nation, and this is how he's praying. Have a good weekend, guys. And don't forget Wayne Caesar from 7 to 8 tomorrow. God bless you.
DJ Shrimpy presents his annual Summer Jam on Saturday, July 25th at the Woodbine in Brooklyn. Music by Super Terry, Busta, Lady Supreme, DJ Quinn, and DJ Shrimpy. Tickets $30. Dinner included. For tickets, inbox DJ Shrimpy on Messenger or call or text 631-805-7923.
I want a woman to jam.
DJ Shrimpy presents his annual Summer Jam on Saturday, July 25th at the Woodbine in Brooklyn. Music by Super Terry, Busta, Lady Supreme, DJ Quinn, and DJ Shrimpy. Tickets $30. Dinner included. For tickets, inbox DJ Shrimpy on Messenger or call or text 631-805-7923.
I want a woman to jam.